I want to start today with a question. And I promise, I'm not trying to trick you, but, well, depending on who you ask, this might actually feel like a trick question.
All right, I'm intrigued. Go for it.
When is your birthday?
Okay. That is, for me, probably the easiest question on any form I ever have to fill out.
Right.
It's a fixed point. It's a specific coordinate on the Gregorian calendar that we all use. If you were born on, say, July 10th, you're celebrating on July 10th, this year, next year, forever. It doesn't move.
Exactly. It's static. It's reliable. You can book a venue for your 50th birthday party 10 years in advance. You can put a deposit down and feel totally safe about it.
You know the date is going to be there.
But just imagine for a second that you wake up this year, you walk into the kitchen, you look at the calendar on the wall, and you realize you don't actually have a birthday this year.
What do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't exist. It fell off the calendar.
Poof! Gone. Skipped entirely.
Yeah.
And then maybe 2 years later, you check the calendar again, and suddenly, surprise, you have 2 birthdays in the same calendar year.
Okay, that would be confusing. And a little bit of a logistical nightmare.
And then maybe a decade later, you realize your birthday has drifted forward by, say, 3 weeks. So now you're trying to plan a summer pool party, but it's actually happening in the middle of autumn when all the leaves are falling.
That sounds like a chaotic way to live. But I know exactly where you're going with this.
Yeah.
You aren't talking about some hypothetical scenario for me.
No.
You are describing the lived reality for millions of people in the Sikh community when it comes to their most important religious dates.
Exactly. We are diving into what is affectionately and sometimes not so affectionately known as the calendar war.
And calling it a war really isn't an exaggeration, is it? We have a massive stack of documents here today. We're looking at letters to the Akal Takht, which is the highest temporal seat of authority for Sikhs.
The ultimate authority.
Right. And then we have research papers by astrophysicists. We have official government proclamations from Canada. And all of it is fighting over this one seemingly simple thing. What day is it?
And what I found so fascinating going through this stack is that this isn't just about knowing when to buy a cake for a celebration. It's not just about scheduling a holiday.
No, absolutely not. Looking at these sources, especially the incredible work of a researcher named Pal Singh Purewal and the very pointed letters from a community activist named Ajit Singh, this is a battle for the very soul of a religion.
A battle for identity.
It is. It's a fight between an ancient, stargazing, ritually bound system of timekeeping called the Bikrami calendar and a powerful push toward a distinct, scientific, and independent system known as the Nanakshahi calendar.
So you've got math, you've got politics, and you've got theology, all wrapped up in a simple grid of dates.
It's incredibly messy, but it's also, as the sources make very clear, incredibly important.
So that is our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack the mechanics of this whole mess. We need to understand why the dates are jumping around. And we're going to do a little orbital mechanics 101, which I know you are excited about.
I'm always excited for orbital mechanics.
Then we're going to look at the elegant solution that Pal Singh Purewal proposed. And finally, we're going to dig into the massive controversy that just exploded when the community tried to implement that fix.
And crucially, before we get into any of the math or the political infighting, we need to clarify who is being celebrated here, because we're going to talk about the Guru's birthday. We have to be very clear about the history and the figures at the center of this.
Right. That seems like the only place to start, so let's do it. Section 1, the foundation. Who and when? Because our sources really emphasize that you can't understand the importance of the calendar if you don't first understand the gurus.
Precisely. The sources we have are very, very keen on establishing this historical baseline. And at the center of this are, of course, the Sikh Gurus. The two most cited in all of these calendar debates are the very first and the 10th.
Okay, let's unpack them. Let's start with the first. Guru Nanak Dev Ji.
Guru Nanak Dev Ji is the founder. He's the originator of the Sikh religion. The sources highlight his advent in the year 1469. So that's our starting point.
And it's important to understand, he didn't just start a sect or, a branch of something else that already existed. He was laying the foundations of a completely distinct faith system.
A very distinct system.
Yeah.
And a big part of that foundation was rationality.
Right. Our sources bring this up again and again.
He fundamentally rejected the superstitions and the empty ritualism of his time. He was constantly questioning why people were performing these elaborate rituals just because, that's how it's always been done.
So he's questioning the status quo, the blind faith and tradition.
Absolutely. And that rejection of superstition is going to become a huge theme when we start talking about how time is calculated later on.
Because if your calendar is based on superstition, that seems to go directly against the founder's own teachings.
That is the core tension right there. You've hit it. So that's the founder. And then we fast forward through the lineage of gurus to the 10th, Guru Gobind Singh Ji.
The sources refer to him as the father of the Khalsa.
Yes. He's the one who formalized the Sikh identity in a very dramatic and public way. And there is a specific date that comes up over and over and over in these documents. Vaisakhi, 1699.
This is the big one. The sources call this the birth of the Sikh nation.
It is. On March 30th, 1699, which, and this is important, corresponds to April 14th in our modern Gregorian calendar, Guru Gobind Singh Ji initiated the Khalsa Panth. He created this collective body of initiated Sikhs.
This was the moment the Sikh nation, or Qawm as the sources call it, was really crystallized. It's a pivotal moment of sovereignty, of standing apart.
A declaration of a distinct identity.
Okay, so we have our key figures. We have the founder, Guru Nanak, born in 1469, and we have the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, who creates the Khalsa in 1699. These are historical facts. They happen on specific days in history.
Correct. They are fixed historical events.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly a little baffling when you first read it. We know Guru Gobind Singh Ji is the 10th Guru. We know he's the father of the Khalsa, but the sources highlight the specific absurdity regarding his birthday.
Yes. The missing birthday problem.
Yeah. In the source material, there's a letter from Ajit Singh, the activist, and he points to a specific year. 1999.
Which should have been a massive year for Sikhs.
Right. 1999 was the 300th anniversary of the creation of the Khalsa, a huge global celebration. The tercentenary.
Parades, celebrations, global recognition in places like Canada and the UK. A really big deal.
But Ajit Singh points out that in that very same year, under the traditional calendar system, the Bikrami calendar, Guru Gobind Singh Ji did not have a birthday.
Just think about the irony of that for a second. You are celebrating the 300th anniversary of this monumental event created by Guru Gobind Singh, but in that very same year, his own birthday didn't actually fall within the 12-month cycle.
It just wasn't there. It vanished.
It vanished. And then in other years, you mentioned it appears twice.
Yes. You can end up celebrating his birthday in January and then again in December of the same calendar year.
It's bewildering.
How does that even happen? How do you lose a birthday? Or gain an extra one? It feels like it breaks the laws of physics.
Well, it doesn't break the laws of physics, but it does break the laws of common sense. And that leads us directly into the mechanics of the mess. We have to talk about the Bikrami calendar. And fair warning, we are about to do some math.
I've got my calculator ready. Lay it on me. Why is this old system causing dates to play hide and seek?
So the Bikrami calendar is what we call a lunisolar calendar. It's been used historically in the Punjab region and across much of India for centuries. And that little hyphen between luni and solar is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It's trying to do two things at once.
Exactly. It's trying to marry two completely different systems that, frankly, really don't want to be married. They are not compatible.
Okay, break that down for us. Luni-solar.
So on one hand, you have the moon, the luni part. A lunar year is based on 12 full cycles of the moon's phases, from new moon to full moon and back again. That whole cycle takes about 29 and a half days.
Okay, so 12 of those.
12 of those comes out to about 354 days.
354. Got it. That already sounds short.
It is short. Because on the other hand, you have the sun, the solar part. A solar year, the time it takes the Earth to do one full lap around the sun, is about 365 and a quarter days.
Right. Hence why we have a leap year every 4 years in the Gregorian calendar to account for that quarter day.
Exactly. But notice the math there. 365 minus 354. The lunar year is about 11 days shorter than the solar year.
Okay, so if I'm just following the moon, I'm finishing my year 11 days early every single year.
Every single year. Imagine two runners on a track. The moon is the faster runner. Every lap, he finishes 11 seconds ahead of the sun.
After one lap, it's fine. Not a big deal.
Right. But after 3 laps, the moon is now 33 seconds ahead. After 10 laps, he's way out in front. And if you base your festivals and your seasons on the moon runner, you're going to have a problem.
Your festivals are going to start moving backward through the seasons.
Precisely. This is the core issue with purely lunar calendars, like the Islamic calendar. The months drift through the seasons. But for an agricultural community in Punjab, that doesn't work.
Right, you can't have the spring harvest festival in the middle of winter.
You can't. Vaisakhi is the spring harvest festival. It's when you cut the wheat. You can't be celebrating a harvest when the ground is frozen solid. It makes no sense.
So the Bikrami system needs a way to fix this drift. A patch.
It has a patch, a kind of clumsy bug fix. They use something called a Malmas, or sometimes Adikmas. It's an intercalary month,
A leap month.
basically. Roughly every 2 or 3 years, when that 11-day gap adds up and gets too wide, about a month wide, they
Okay.
just they just add a 13th month to the year to catch up.
They just stick an extra month in there?
They do. They essentially pause the calendar to let the sun runner catch up to the moon runner.
But wait a second. If you add a whole extra month into the year, doesn't that push everything else that comes after it forward by a month?
Yes, that's the catch. That is the source of the chaos. When they add that leap month, all the subsequent dates for religious festivals, what are called Gurparabs, they jump around. They can shift by 18 or 19 days, sometimes more, depending on whether it's a normal 12-month year or a 13-month leap year.
So that explains how Guru Gobind Singh Ji's birthday is all over the place. In a short lunar year, you might get 2 of his birthdays falling within 1 solar year.
Exactly. One at the very beginning in January and one at the very end in December.
And if they add a leap month, it might push the birthday so far back that it gets shoved into the next solar year and you miss it entirely.
And that is precisely how you get the missing birthday of 1999. The leap month was inserted, and it pushed his birthday right off that year's calendar page.
That is such a mess. So that's the lunar problem. But reading through Pal Singh Purewal's research, he brings up a whole other issue, something he calls astronomical drift. This sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it seems even more permanent than the lunar jumping.
It is. It's a much slower, more insidious problem. This is where we get into the difference between tracking the stars and tracking the seasons. And this is the part that, honestly, it really blew my mind reading through the source material. It's so subtle, but so important.
Okay, let's get technical. What is this drift?
It comes down to the simple question of which solar year you are measuring. Because it turns out there are 2 ways to measure a year using the sun.
I thought a year was a year, one trip around the sun.
Well, one trip relative to what? That's the question. One way to measure it is the sidereal year, that is, measuring the Earth's position relative to the fixed stars in the distant background.
Okay, Earth's position relative to a distant star.
The other way is the tropical year. That measures the Earth relative to the sun and our seasons. It's the time from one spring equinox to the next spring equinox.
They aren't the same length.
They are not. And this is the crazy part. Because the Earth wobbles slightly on its axis, it's a phenomenon called precession, like a spinning top wobbling. The tropical year, the year of our seasons, is about 20 minutes shorter than the sidereal year, the year of the stars.
20 minutes? That doesn't sound like much. I can waste 20 minutes just trying to find something to watch on TV.
It's not much in a single human lifetime. You'd never notice it. But over decades, over centuries, over 1,000 years, it adds up. And here's the kicker. The Bikrami calendar, for its solar calculations, uses the longer sidereal year, the star year.
But our seasons, like the spring harvest, follow the shorter tropical year.
Exactly. So the calendar's locked to the distant stars, but the actual seasons on Earth are slowly drifting away from it. The calendar is falling behind the seasons.
Oh, wow. So Pure Haral must have calculated what this means in real terms.
He did. His research is meticulous on this. He calculated that back in Guru Nanak's time, around 1469, the harvest festival of Vaisakhi fell on March 27th.
Okay, late March. Makes sense for a spring festival.
Right. But today, in the modern era, Vaisakhi usually falls on April 13th or 14th. It has drifted forward by over 2 weeks.
So wait, if they keep using this system, what happens in the future? Where does Vaisakhi end up?
Purewal's research is very clear on this. He projects it forward. If left unchecked, Vaisakhi will eventually drift into May, then into June, then into July.
So the spring harvest festival would be happening in the middle of the scorching summer heat.
Exactly. It would completely decouple the festival from the season it's meant to represent. The cultural and agricultural meaning would be totally lost. You'd be celebrating the cutting of the wheat months after the wheat had already been harvested and sold.
That is just wild. So you have the lunar dates jumping back and forth by weeks every few years because of the leap month, and you have the solar dates slowly but surely drifting into the future because the year itself is measured incorrectly.
It's a double whammy of confusion and inaccuracy.
And there is a third layer to this mess, which the sources find particularly frustrating and I think theologically problematic. It's the reliance on external authority.
Ah, right. This is the part about the Patriwala, or the Pandit.
Yes, there's a fascinating and, frankly, kind of damning anecdote in the letters from Ajit Singh. He talks about trying to get future dates for Canadian school boards. The schools want to put the Sikh holidays on their multicultural calendars so the kids can get days off or the school can plan assemblies.
Which is a totally standard thing to do in a multicultural society. It's a sign of recognition and respect.
Right. It's great for integration. So Ajit Singh, working with the community, contacts the SGPC, the Shiromani Gurdwara Parbandhak Committee. This is the main body that manages the historic Gurdwaras in India. They are, for all intents and purposes, the central administrators of the faith.
You'd think they'd be the ones to ask.
You would think. He asks them a simple question. When are the holidays for next year and the year after?
And what do they say?
They couldn't tell him. Wait, what? The main governing body of the entire religion couldn't tell him when their own religious holidays were?
No. They openly admitted that they had to wait until closer to the festival of Diwali to consult the local pandits, the Hindu priests or Brahmins, who would calculate and publish the almanac for the coming year.
So you're saying a modern independent world religion was effectively outsourcing its timekeeping to the priests of another religion?
That is exactly the critique that Ajit Singh makes in his letters. He's asking, how can we be a sovereign nation, a sovereign qualm, if we have to ask someone else what time it is in our own house?
And he shares this really biting, humorous story from his village to illustrate the sheer absurdity of it. He calls it the goat droppings anecdote.
I read this. It's hilarious, but also kind of tragic. You have to tell the listeners this story. It perfectly captures the problem.
Okay, so picture this. Back in his village, there was a Brahmin who was responsible for telling all the villagers the dates. His job was to tell them when Sangran was the official start of the new month in the Bikrami calendar.
He was the keeper of time for the whole community.
He was. But he didn't have a telescope or an atomic clock or even a computer. He had a goat.
A goat.
A goat. And according to Ajit Singh, he kept a pile of goat droppings in a little clay pot.
Okay.
Every day, he would put one dropping into the pot to count the days. One pellet, one day. It's a simple tally system. When the count reached the right number, say 30 or 31, he'd go out and declare that the new month had begun.
It's a bit rustic, but I guess it works, as long as you can count.
Until it doesn't. One day, the goat actually got loose, and it kicked the pot over.
Oh.
The calendar is ruined, total data loss. The pellets went everywhere. They got mixed with dirt, mixed with fresh droppings from the goat. The count was completely gone.
So he has no idea what day it is.
He has no idea. And of course, that's the day the villagers come to ask for the date. Panditji, is it the new month yet? And the Brahmin, staring at this mess of spilled goat droppings on the ground, can't very well admit his entire system is just based on counting poop pellets.
He's a reputation to maintain. He's the wise man.
Exactly. So he looks up at the sky, puts on a very serious, thoughtful face, and he tells them, the stars have aligned differently this month due to a celestial event. The month is delayed. Come back tomorrow.
Wow. He faked it. He made it up on the spot.
He faked it. And the point Ajit Singh is making with this story isn't just to mock that one specific Brahmin. It's to ask a much bigger, more serious question.
Why should a modern, independent faith like Sikhism, a faith which prides itself on rationality and the rejection of superstition, still be reliant on such arbitrary and archaic methods?
Why rely on the goat?
Why rely on the goat in such a powerful, visceral image? You're contrasting this goat-dropping methodology with modern astronomy. And that, finally, brings us to the solution. Because someone did decide to fix this.
Enter Pal Singh Purewal.
The man with the plan. The man with the telescope.
He is a Canada-based researcher, originally from Punjab. And he wasn't just a critic who complained about the dates. He was a scientist. He spent years, decades even, doing the math. He went back through history, he studied astronomy, and he developed what we now call the Nanakshahi calendar.
So how does his calendar fix this three-layered mess? What's the secret sauce?
It's actually quite elegant in its simplicity. The core of the Nanakshahi calendar is that it is purely solar-based. No more trying to marry the moon and the sun.
He just picks one.
He picks the sun. And specifically, he ties his calendar to the tropical year. Remember we talked about how the old Bikrami year is too long because it tracks the stars, the sidereal year?
Right, which causes that slow drift against the seasons.
Purewal switched it to the tropical year, the year of the seasons. He fixed the drift. He locked the calculation to the actual time it takes the Earth to go around the sun from one spring equinox to the next.
So under his system, Vaisakhi will not end up in July.
Never. It is locked permanently to April 14th, forever. The Spring Harvest Festival will always be in the spring.
Okay, so that fixes the drift problem. What about the lunar dates? The birthdays and martyrdom days that jump around and sometimes disappear.
He fixed those too. He converted them all to fixed solar dates. He took the historical dates from the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries and meticulously mapped them onto the Common Era calendar, the Gregorian calendar that the entire world uses.
There's no more guessing.
No more guessing. Under the Nanakshahi system, Guru Gobind Singh Ji's birthday is always January 5th. Guru Arjan Dev Ji's martyrdom is always June 16th. Guru Nanak's Prakash is always April 14th. Every year, no exceptions.
That just sounds so much more sane. It's predictable.
It's not just convenient, it's consistent. It aligns with the calendar that we use for work, for school, for everything else in our lives.
And the sources mention a specific victory, a test case, back in 1999 that proved this system could work in the real world.
Yes, the Khalsa Day proclamations. This is such a great example of why this calendar is so important for the diaspora for Sikhs living outside of India.
Right, in places like Canada.
Exactly. In 1999, the World Sikh Organization, the WSO, lobbied Canadian city councils and provincial governments, places like the city of Ottawa and New Westminster in British Columbia.
And this was for the big 300th anniversary of the Khalsa.
Right. They wanted April 14th to be officially declared Khalsa Day, and they succeeded. They got official government proclamations signed by mayors and premiers recognizing that day as significant to the Sikh community.
But they could only do that because they could give the government a specific fixed date.
Exactly. Imagine trying to lobby a city council for a holiday proclamation and saying, well, this year it's April 14th, but next year it might be May 2nd, and the year after that it's back in March. We'll let you know once the Pandit releases the almanac.
The government would just laugh you out of the room. Bureaucracies don't work like that. They need fixed dates for their own calendars.
Purewal's work allowed for this standardization. It allowed Sikh identity to be formally recognized by the state. It put them on the official map.
So you'd think everyone would be thrilled. You'd think the reaction would be, hey, look, we have a calendar that works, it's scientific, it's independent, and it helps us get recognition in the West.
You would think it was a home run, but that's not what happened, is it?
Not at all. This is where we get into the deep theological and political battle. This is section 4 of our deep dive, the battle for identity, or, as the sources put it, the battle between Karta and Kirat.
Okay, let's unpack those terms. These feel like the philosophical core of the entire argument. Karta and Kirat. What do they mean?
So, Karta is a term from Gurbani that refers to the creator god, the doer, the one source of everything.
Okay, Karta is the creator.
And Kirat refers to the creation, that which is created by the Karta. The universe, nature, the planets, the stars, time itself, all of it is the Kirat.
And the fundamental rule in Sikhism is?
The rule is that you worship the creator, not the creation. You worship Karta, not Kirat. You don't worship the sun. You worship the one who created the sun.
So how does the old calendar, the Bikrami calendar, violate that principle? Why is using a certain calendar considered worshiping the creation?
Because the Bikrami system is deeply, deeply rooted in Hindu astrology. It is built on the notion of auspicious and inauspicious times. You have these special days like Sangrand, which is the first day of the month, or Masya, the new moon, or Purnamashi, the full moon.
Right.
In the traditional Brahminical worldview, these days have special power. The alignment of the planets on these days affects your destiny. You should do certain rituals or avoid certain activities on these days to get good luck or ward off bad luck.
It's the idea that the time itself has power over you. The creation is dictating terms to you.
Exactly. And Sikhism, from Guru Nanak onwards, explicitly rejects that idea. The sources we have are filled with quotes from Gurbani, the Sikh scriptures, that argue that for a Sikh, all time is good. Every day is auspicious if you are connected to God, to the Creator. There's no such thing as a bad day or a lucky time in the astrological sense.
So by continuing to use the Bikrami calendar, which is structured around these auspicious and inauspicious lunar days, the argument is that Sikhs are unknowingly participating in a system of belief that their own gurus told them to reject.
Precisely. They are paying homage to the creation, the Kirat, instead of the creator. The sources use very strong language here. They call it a form of slavery to Brahminical rituals. The phrase they use is Biprankirit.
The ways of the Brahmins?
Yes. And so they argue that adopting the Nanakshahi calendar isn't just a matter of practical convenience. It's a declaration of theological sovereignty. It's about breaking the chains of ritualism that the gurus preached against for centuries.
It's a declaration that we don't need to ask the astrologer when a good time to pray is.
It's saying we don't serve the stars, we serve the creator of the stars. It's a fundamental statement of independence.
There is another anecdote in the source material that really drives home the kind of disrespect that comes from all this calendar confusion.
Yeah.
It's a really jarring one. The sheep shit insult.
Yes. This is a very raw and painful story shared by Ajit Singh. He recounts an interaction he had with a foreigner, a non-Sikh. They were discussing the Sikh community, the history, the dates, and the internal confusion came up in the conversation.
And what did the man say to him?
He told Ajit Singh, and this is a direct quote from the source, Sikhs cannot differentiate between sheep shit and dates.
Ouch. That is just brutal.
It's incredibly offensive, yes. But the context was specifically the confusion around Guru Nanak's birthday. As we mentioned, historical evidence strongly suggests Guru Nanak was born in the month of Vaisak, which is in the spring, around April.
But that's not when it's celebrated.
No. Tradition, influenced by the Bikrami lunar cycles and later customs, celebrates his birthday in the month of Kartik, which is in the autumn, October, or November.
So the dates are off by 6 months.
They're on the opposite side of the year. And the insult, this horrible dates versus sheep shit, referring to the physical resemblance of dried dates to sheep droppings, was this person's crude way of saying, you people don't even know the difference between fact and fiction. You don't know your own history.
That stings. But it highlights the vulnerability, doesn't it? If you don't own your own time, if you can't present a unified, coherent history to the world, you open yourself up to ridicule.
It suggests a lack of seriousness as a nation, as a quam. The argument is, if you don't even know when your founder was born, how can you claim to be a distinct people with a distinct destiny? Or are you just a confused group following someone else's outdated, broken map?
So with all this logical, scientific, and theological backing, the Nanakshahi calendar must have been a slam dunk, right? It solves the math, it solves the theology, it stops the insults from outsiders.
Well, for a brief shining moment, it was a slam dunk. In 2003, there was a huge victory. The SGPC, that main governing body we mentioned, officially adopted the Nanakshahi calendar.
So they did it. 2003 was the year of the change.
They did. It was seen as a massive, revolutionary step forward for the Panth, for the global Sikh community. Pal Singh Purewal's decades of hard work had finally paid off. Most of the key historical dates were fixed.
So Guru Gobind Singh's birthday was locked to January 5th, Vaisakhi to April 14th.
Yes, and dozens of others. But I hear a but coming in your voice.
There were some compromises, even then. To satisfy the traditionalists, the hardliners, they had to make a few concessions.
They did. They kept Guru Nanak's birthday celebration on the floating lunar cycle in Kartik. And they kept the festival of Holi, or Hola Mohalla, on the lunar cycle as well. But something like 90% of the calendar was fixed and rationalized.
Okay, so a partial win, but a massive win nonetheless. But then 2010 happened.
The rollback. This is Section 5, the controversy. And this is where it gets deeply political and, according to our sources, deeply disappointing.
What happened? Why go backward after such a huge leap forward?
Politics and power, plain and simple. The sources point the finger directly at a group called the Sant Samaj.
Who are they?
These are leaders of traditionalist seminaries and historical lineages, people like a leader named Harnam Singh Duma. And they're very, very attached to the old ways, the old rituals, and frankly, the influence that comes with interpreting the Bikrami system.
Why, though? Is it just stubbornness? A refusal to change?
It's deeper than that, I think. For these traditional seminaries, the whole ecosystem of the Jantri, the old almanac, and the role of the astrologer are part of the fabric of how they operate. They see the Nanakshahi calendar as too modern, maybe too Western, or perhaps too disconnected from the Indian cultural and religious context they exist in. It breaks their connection to a shared past, even if that past is messy.
So they saw it as a threat to their authority.
And they put immense pressure on the SGPC to reverse the decision. They formed a powerful political alliance with the ruling political party in Punjab at the time. And around 2010, the SGPC leadership caved. They amended the calendar.
But they didn't just scrap it and go back to the old one, right? They did something that seems even more confusing.
Yes. This is what the host in our outline so perfectly calls putting a new label on an old bottle. They kept the name Nanakshahi.
So if you pick up a calendar from that time, on the cover, it still says Nanakshahi calendar.
It does. But inside.
Mm.
The dates were reverted back to the old floating Bikrami calculations. They just switched the math back to the goat droppings method, essentially, but kept the shiny new name.
That's incredibly deceptive.
It created total chaos, because now you had some Gurdwaras following the original pure 2003 Nanakshahi calendar, mostly in the diaspora in Canada, the UK, the US, and Australia. They looked at this change and said, no, We refuse to go back.
And the others.
And you had others, mostly in India, following the new amended 2010 calendar, which was really just the old Bikrami calendar in disguise.
So suddenly you have families where the cousin in Toronto is celebrating Guru Gobind Singh's birthday on a fixed date, January 5th, and the cousin back in Punjab is celebrating it whenever the moon says so, maybe 2 weeks later.
Exactly. The unity of the global community was shattered over this. You literally have a split in the space-time of the community, people celebrating the same event on different days and different weeks.
And the sources have a very sharp, very pointed critique of why this political reversal happened.
They do. The letters we have accuse the Sikh leadership, the Jathadars, who are the high priests, and the SGPC committee, of being subservient to their political masters, rather than following Gurmat, which means the Guru's principles.
There's a palpable sense of betrayal in these letters we've been reading.
A profound sense of betrayal. Ajit Singh's letters to the Akal Takht Jathadar are just pleading. He's asking, why are you forcing us back into this slavery? Why are we abandoning our sovereignty for political convenience? He views it as the leadership selling out the future of the community to appease the Darwalas, these sect leaders, and the political parties who want to keep the community entangled in the old, confusing ways.
It's a tragic turn in the story. You have the solution in your hand, you even adopt it, and then you let it slip away because of internal politics.
Which brings us to the so what. Why does this calendar fight matter to the average listener, Sikh or not? This is Section 6, the deep significance to Sikh identity.
We've touched on this throughout, but let's really crystallize it now. Why is a calendar so vital to a community's sense of self?
Okay, I think it boils down to 3 key things, according to our sources. First, and most importantly, is distinctness. The Nanakshahi calendar is a powerful symbol. It asserts that Sikhs are a separate Qawma nation, a distinct people. They have their own system of time, independent of Hindu astrology.
It's like if you use someone else's calendar, you are a guest living in their house. If you build your own calendar, you have your own home.
That's a fantastic analogy. If you are using the Bikrami calendar, you are, in a sense, a cultural or religious satellite of Hinduism. If you use the Nanakshahi calendar, you are declaring that you are a sovereign planet with your own unique orbit.
Okay, so distinctness is number 1. What's the second point?
Global integration. This is the deeply practical side of it. For the millions of Sikhs living in the West, in Canada, the UK, the US, a fixed, predictable calendar is absolutely essential for survival and growth.
Right. We talked about this. You can tell the school board April 14th is our day. You can tell your boss, I need January 5th off for a religious observance. It's clear. It's simple.
Exactly. It allows the next generation, kids growing up in these countries, to know when their holidays are without having to call a relative or check a special almanac. It integrates Sikh history into the fabric of the Western calendar year. It lets a Sikh child say, my Christian friends have Christmas on December 25th, and we celebrate Guru Gobind Singh's birthday on January 5th. It puts them on an equal, understandable footing.
And finally, the third point, which brings us full circle, the scientific temper.
This connects all the way back to Guru Nanak. He rejected superstition. He embraced reason. He rejected the idea that the stars and planets control our fate. The Nanakshahi calendar, based on the precise, verifiable tropical year, is scientific. It is accurate. It is rational.
It aligns the administrative side of the faith with the core philosophical teachings of the faith.
Yes. It rejects the superstition of the goat droppings in favor of modern astronomical calculation. The argument is that a modern universal faith should have a modern universal calendar. It's that simple.
So after all that, where does that leave the community today?
Well, in a bit of a stalemate, honestly. The division still exists.
We've established that Guru Nanak is the founder, and Guru Gobind Singh is the 10th guru who created the Khalsa. We know the Nanakshahi calendar attempts to honor them with fixed, scientifically sound dates, April 14th and January 5th.
But the struggle continues. The calendar remains a proxy war. It's not really just about dates anymore. It's about modernity versus tradition. It's about sovereignty versus assimilation.
It's a fight over whether you move forward into the future or hold on to a past that, as the sources argue, is holding you back.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought.
Yes, a question from the sources for you to chew on after we're done here.
If a community cannot even agree on the dates of its own history, how can it truly claim to be a distinct and sovereign nation in the eyes of the world?
Is the refusal to adopt a fixed scientific calendar a noble sign of holding on to sacred tradition? Or, as our sources so powerfully suggest, is it actually a form of slavery to a past that the gurus themselves spent their lives trying to break?
That is the question. And it's one that every Sikh and every Gurdwara is answering, knowingly or not, every time they print a calendar for the new year.
Something to think about next time you check the date on your phone. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the calendar war.
It's been fascinating.
We'll catch you on the next one.